Hey everyone, this is a video on how to use Excel to do the Traverse project. This one is specifically for the Southwest start point. So we have data over here that was collected, and if you scroll down, I've screen captured where our start point is. So this one's starting in the Southwest. Basically, I have the system set up so you don't have to do all the typing in of the information. Now, in Excel, if you don't know much about it, then we've got columns and we've got rows. Okay, so each cell has something specific in it and can be referenced. We can also change the text type up here and the text height. For example, I can say I just click on any cell and I can start typing in the cell itself, or once I click on a cell, I can come up here and type. Okay, name, and then put the student name. All right, now you can change that also by having notice how it's in a center. You can align it to the left, you can align it to the right, you can align it to the center. If I made this by pulling, I'm left clicking and pulling this down, I can make it center, top, bottom, etc. I'm not going to go too much on how to make it nice and pretty. I'm just going to start showing you how to put in information. So I actually have it completed over here. So this is what it's going to look like completed. And what I've done down here is I've put the steps corresponding to the steps that you've seen in the homework and listed that you're required to do. So there's 24 steps, or 27 steps. All right. Now, move that back over. The first thing you need to do is make sure your information's set up. Notice that these gray lines, and you can highlight, you can fill in. Let's say I wanted to make the first one I left click. You can left click, hold the shift button down and left click, mouse button click, and you can pull down and put any color you want in there. That's how I did the gray. All right. Now, the first one is, I'm just going to type it in. I'm going to type in AZ SW 2, and the horizontal distance is 199.6. and now I'm not going to put 15, I'm going to put 15 degrees, 18 minutes, and 15 seconds. Notice I have 3 columns for those, and the reason is I don't have degrees, minutes, and seconds all broke down into one column row. All right, now this is where we first start our equations. Now I'm going to do everything in decimal degrees and instead of degrees, minutes, and seconds, because it's going to be easier in the Excel sheet. Now you have to understand in the Excel sheet that we're not using decimal degrees. We're actually going to end up being using radians. So let me show you the formula for this. So I already wrote the formula up and I'm just going to type it in over here. Whoops, get rid of that. So the formula is going to be, let me hit enter. Whoops. Goodness gracious. The formula is going to be C5, and you can say C5, which is column 5, row 5, or column C, row 5, plus column E over well, let me switch this up. Sorry, hold on. Let me write it this way. So I'm going to say equal sign. You always have to start off formula with an equal sign. So I'm going to come over here and go equal sign. And here's the cool thing. I'm going to say the degrees, which is C5, plus, and we know that minutes, there are 60 minutes in 1 degree. So I'm going to use shift and the number 9, which is my open parentheses. I'm going to pick the minute and the division symbol, the backslash, right next to your shift key, and type in 60. And I'm going to close the parentheses. And then I'm going to hit the plus button, shift plus, open parentheses, 15, the seconds divided by 3600. And close parentheses. Now I'm going to hit enter to make it work. Now what that does is it's going to convert the degrees, minutes, and seconds into decimal degrees. All right. The other thing that I want you to notice in this, when I go to click this cell again, and if I click up here in the formula bar, notice how it highlights. This blue corresponds with this blue. Hopefully you're not colorblind. If you are, I'm sorry. This red corresponds to this red. So when you're looking at your formulas, it's easier to see because your formula is color-coded. All right? Now, remember what I said about not having enough decimals. Well, in Excel, you have a lot of decimal places. See up here where it has this increase the decimal places? I can increase the decimal places as many as I want. In Excel, you don't have to. Even when I'm only showing three or four decimal places, the computer actually takes into account all the decimal places in the math. So now we're going to go to the next one. Underneath that, we have S. I'm going to hit Shift. I'm going to do caps 2-SE space bar over. You can hit the arrow key, or you can use your mouse and pick it into the cell. And this is going to be 60.12. And now I'm going to go 290, 45, and 10. Now, the nice thing about this is once you have this copied, you can actually highlight the entire thing, go Control C, and then come down to the next cell, escape out of that, put it back into this bar, and go Control V, and then hit Enter. All right? Now, the problem is it's holding that formula. Okay? When you copy it, it's holding the exact same formula, the same row, cells, and all that. But that's not the right cell that I want to use. So you can actually just pull this down. I'm using my left mouse and dragging it down and then hitting Enter. And it automatically updates for you. Okay? Now, the next thing that we have is the Southwest. Okay? So I'm going to type in Southwest -2-3. Come over one and go 90. And I'm going to type in 101. Use my arrow key or my mouse and type 52. I'm sorry, I should have been 50. 50 because I'm using the average. I'm using the average over here. And I type in 40, 45. Now on the first one it should have been 15, 18, sorry, 18 and 22.5. The next one should have been 290, 45 and 05. All right. Now, I could do the whole same copy paste, but here's another cool thing. See this little green button here? If I just pull it down, I'm left clicking and dragging it down. It actually copies the formula, but it copies the correct row and columns in addition. The only bad thing is it changes its color. So you can click on that cell and then come up here to the fill and just change that fill back. It's the third one over first row. Okay? Now, the next one is going to be your Southwest, 2-3-Northwest, and its distance is 102.38, and it is 206. I'm using the arrow key over if you want to do that. 7.5, enter. And I'm just going to go ahead and I can also just scroll all the way down. It'll say 0, but it's a placeholder. Okay? The next one is 2-3-Southwest, and it is 235.24. Oops. 235.24 is the distance, and it is 56, 15, and 32.5. Enter. Now, notice I have an extra row in here. I can actually get rid of that row by left clicking. I'm hovering over the number 10, left clicking, so it highlights that whole row, right click, and delete, and it deletes that row. You can leave that row in and just go down to the gray one if you want. 3-SW-2 199.56, and this is 2155.37.5. Okay, now on this I like to be very exact on information, so I'm going to type in neither angle. I'm going to say side shot. I'm going to say angle at 0.2, side shot, angle at, see how it automatically started writing? I can come up here and backspace and go 3, and angle at 0.1. Now, here's the other thing, is I want to say it's the closing angle, parentheses, okay? Now, it basically, the reason this wraps around, notice this wrap. If it didn't have this wrapped around, it would look like this, and you could send it to the side, but notice how it comes out over here. But as soon as I click on that cell and I come up here and say wrap around, it wraps around it, and I like mine in the center, okay? You can also drag these. I'm holding the left mouse button and dragging this over. I can also go to the left mouse button and double click on the lines, and it'll automatically shorten up the lines and make it look nice. All right, now maybe I want this, there is no enter button to get that to the second line. To do that, all I'm doing is dragging, I'm holding the left mouse button down, and I'm just dragging this over till it actually forces to the next line. All right, now the next thing that I want to do is, oops, I'm going to get rid of that gray. So I highlight that cell and I'm going to say no fill. Okay, so the only ones that I'm truly interested in to do my angular misclosure are just the gray cells. Now this is the cool part of Excel. Do I really want to have to type all that information again? No. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go to the first cell and I'm going to say equal sign, and I'm going to come up here where it says Southwest 2 to 3, and I'm going to hit enter. All right, that did not. There. Hold on. All right, this cell is has a format issue. So whenever I type in equal sign, it's not allowing the format that I want. If I type in equal sign in this one and use the same cell, it automatically does. This is what it's supposed to do. So I believe there is a format. So I'm going to clear the formats in this. So I'm going to delete that out. I'm going to say equal sign and here. There we go. So if you ever get something that's not, just clear out the formats. I'm going to delete this one. Equal sign A9, equal sign A10. All right. So I'm going to highlight those. That means I left click. You can left click and scroll down with your mouse and come up here, and there's all different types of borders. I'm going to use all borders, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to center the data. All right. Now, let's say I didn't want a border here. You can come back over here and go no border, but you have to put the borders back on the other two sides. Just start playing with that a little bit and you'll see how to clean it up as you go along. Okay. I'm going to capitalize that. I told you I like capital letters. Now, corresponding average decimal degree, you go equal sign. So we're going to have to go to the Southwest 2-3, pick, equal sign, and notice it automatically drops to the next row. I've got 2-3-Southwest, pick, a equal sign, and now I'm going to do the last one, pick. And now I want to see if all of these equal 180 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say equals, and then I can pick these individual. This, and I'm going to hit shift and the plus button, this, shift and the plus button, and that. So it's more than 180 degrees. All right. Now, just to see what it looks like, I'm going to write a formula to convert the decimal degrees back into degrees, minutes, and seconds. So the first thing that I have to do is I'm going to type in equal sign, int, because I want an integer, open parentheses, open parentheses, and then the cell here. I'm going to just pick C23. Okay. And I am going to, it says C22. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to pick C22. And I am going to close parentheses. All right, so that put the first part of the integer down. The next one, to do the minutes, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to take the integer, the 180, minus the 180 to get the integer for that value and multiply it by 60. So that formula, all I'm doing is converting that 0.0319, all the other decimals, into minutes. Okay, so I'm going to say equal sign, int, parentheses. I need a second parenthesis, and I'm going to take the bigger number, C22, that 180 point blah blah blah, minus the 180, close parentheses, and then I'm going to hit shift and then the number 8, which puts a little star symbol, which is multiplication, and type in 60 and close. Notice the number of parentheses. I have a parenthesis here, and it closes red on red, and then I have the parentheses on the outside, the black on black, and I hit enter. Now, what that leaves me with is the seconds, okay? So we've converted it to minutes. Now, on the seconds, I'm going to have to do this formula. So I'm going to say equal sign. And the nice thing is that when I do this, I can copy these formulas. I don't have to keep rewriting them. Equal sign, parenthesis, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the first set, which is going to be this number minus this number, close parentheses, times 60. Now I'm going to have to put a set of parentheses around it, and you can just use your mouse and go up to the top to click inside here, and then I'm going to subtract this one, the minutes, parentheses, and I got to have another set out here, parentheses, and multiply it by 60. Okay, so that is our option. All right, now the next thing that we want to do is we're looking at, because I just wanted the degrees, minutes, and seconds, I wanted to show you that formula. The next part is, what was the misclosure? It's 180 degrees minus the what we actually calculated the average angles to be. So that means we've got the angles was too large of an error. So I'm going to take this number and divide it by 3. So see how it says divide by 3 equals? So that's just text. So I look at the formula, I put equal sign, this cell, the blue cell, divided by 3. Okay? And just to let you know, just to see, that is decimal degrees. So in the next cell, I say, okay, that number multiplied by 3,600. That converts it to seconds. Just to see how many seconds you were off. And I'm just going to reduce those down. You don't need that many. The computer, again, continues to hold all of your decimal places. All right? Now, the next step in here, we have to get the average and adjust them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the average angle and add, because that's a negative number, which ends up being a subtraction, to the first one. Okay? So I'm going to take the average, equal sign, the average decimal, and I'm going to add the negative misclosure, that divided by 3. And I want the decimal degrees of this one. So I'm going to add that. Why am I adding? Because it's a negative sign. Okay, so technically I know I'm subtracting. Now, here's another cool little trick is I want to repeat this formula all the way down. Notice that these formulas are in the same pattern as these formulas. So I can't just scroll this down, pull this down, because it's not going to give me the correct numbers. So I'm going to delete that out. What I can do is coming up here, when I scroll this, I'm going to do it again. When I scroll this down, what happens is, take a look at what the formula does. It keeps shifting that value that we're subtracting by, aka adding to the next one. Now, if I had originally in this formula up here put a $sign in front of each one, it's actually locking the cell. Now you can put the $sign in it yourself, or you can click the cell and then hit F4 on your keyboard, the function F4. It'll automatically put the $signs in there for you, and hit enter. Now watch when I pull this down. It fills up the cells, but notice that it always holds that cell in its place. Now this is the cool thing. Everything is relative. So now I can highlight those 3 cells. I'm left clicking and just scrolling across. Control C on your keyboard. Control V. All right. Notice that it's going to this cell here. If I pull this one down, that blue cell, it goes to the right value. If I pull this one down, it goes to the correct value. If I pull this one down again, it goes to the correct value. Now on this one, all I have to do is pull all of those down. Okay, so now the next thing that you have is computing the azimuth. Well, we're given the azimuth line in the first one, so I'm going to say SW-AZ. It's 7 degrees, 16 minutes, and 40 seconds. Okay? Now, I like everything in the center, so I'm going to highlight that and put it in the center. Now, the formula we've already figured out for decimal degrees is up here. So I can actually just highlight one of these. I can just pick that cell, Control C for copy, scroll down, pick that cell, and go Control V and paste. And it puts the cell in the correct formula. All right? Now, the next step is figuring out the equations. Now, what I've done already is I've already set up these cells to be referenced. So notice, this first one, my 1 to AZ, or my southwest to AZ, it already references that decimal degrees. So I also have this one, the angle at the AZ, angle at 2, which is angle at 2. If I'm looking at this, I'm backsighting southwest, turning to 0.3. So I'm sorry, this is the neither angle. My bad. It's the neither angle. It's that first shot up here. And when I add these two together, it's actually going to be the azimuth of this line from the southwest to 0.2 over here. All right? So that is the azimuth to that line. Now, remember what we have to do for computing azimuths. Azimuth, we get the azimuth, we get the back azimuth, and we add our angle. So since this azimuth from this line to this line is less than 180, when I go from 2 back to the southwest, the azimuth from 2 back to 1, which is my southwest, I'm not going to change that to southwest, is going to have to equal, I'm going to have to add 180. So I'm going to say 180. Now take a look at the formula. So I'm adding these two values, and this is now my back azimuth. I've set the formula up where the angle at 2, this angle up 2, which is now our converted decimal degrees, notice where it's going to. It's going to the adjusted angle. Okay? It's going to the adjusted angle. So now that angle from azimuth 2 to 3 is 304 degrees. Well, To get the back azimuth from 3 to 2, I know I'm going to have to subtract minus 180, right? Oops, minus 180. Helps if I could type. And now the formula, notice it's a plus here because I've got a negative here. I'm subtracting. And then I add the angle at 3. Notice where it's referencing. It's referencing my average adjusted angle. Okay? Now the azimuth from 3 to back to the southwest is 180 degrees. Well, I have to get the back azimuth, so it's greater than 180, so I'm going to subtract 180. All right? So the azimuth from 3 to the back azimuth from 3 to the back azimuth from southwest to 3 is 0.6 degrees. Okay? Now I'm going to add my closing angle. Notice it's referenced to the one at the top. I've already set this up in your Excel sheet, so just letting you know. Now, it is going to add up those two angles. Notice for a check that this equals this, and that's exactly what it's supposed to do. All right, I'm going to pause the video now, and then we'll take a look at steps 5 through 17.